Nintendo is actively investigating reports that its female testers faced harassment and discrimination.
This had me laughing so hard.
I mean, it shouldn't be funny.
No,
but
it's because they made the headline make it sound like, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
The headline makes it sound like it's some kind of Fox News-esque, as they said, frat house-esque environment.
Like
when in
Activision
reality,
Blizzard.
it's just like certain employees not being able to socially adapt.
Yep. So it says Nintendo of America is investigating reports that female games testers were subject to discrimination and harassment.
Thank you.
According to internal messages seen by Kotaku. Well, that's your first problem. You're reading Kotaku. We have to read Kotaku after this. Earlier this week, the publication published a scathing report exposing a toxic workplace culture. I can't even say it's like trauma. I can't say toxic anymore.
This is such a long expose, by the way, that we can't even begin to scratch the surface. But I hope we can show you the best parts.
We're gonna pick and choose the funniest parts. Is what we're going to do. So, but we're gonna get through this part first because it gives an overview of it. So it says, according to Kotaku, Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser.
I thought he was hired for the memes.
It's got to be a meme hire for his name. Like the next guy will be like Luigi. Like it'll be like an Italian guy named Luigi.
Like, no, we just picked the right person for the job with the most skills.
Yes. Sent an email to employees acknowledging that claims of on August 16th, the same day the report was released. In the message, Bowser stresses that the company is taking allegations very seriously, stating, "We have and will always investigate any allegations we become aware of, and we are actively investigating these most recent claims." Bowser also highlighted that Nintendo has strict policies designed to protect our employees and associates from inappropriate conduct, expect full compliance with these policies by all who work with us. This isn't the first time a large gaming company... Okay, they talk about Activision Blizzard. We know about that. The Cosby Suite. Those pictures are ridiculous. Kotaku's report says women are underrepresented and underpaid amongst Nintendo's contractors compared to their male peers, making up just 10% of these teams. In addition, a former employee claims that female Nintendo staff were overlooked for full-time work and progression opportunities. The report also detailed a frat house work environment, which mentions that female staff were subjected to sexually inappropriate and homophobia from male Nintendo workers. I'm going to ask a very insensitive question off the bat, and I don't mean anything rude by this. Is this just because like you're entering like a testosterone-filled, mostly male environment and just kind of like allow me to come in here and just not be a guy in what is typically a guy's environment?
Well, what we were talking about with Feminist Frequencies resource for Twitch streamers is they can't decide whether they want to frame gamers as these basement-dwelling incels or chatted up frat boys who have no common courtesy or respect for women. But it's whatever fits the framing best.
Right. Upon convenience.
The reality of this is there are probably like a lot of dudes that work at Nintendo and their subsidiary contractors who are socially unaware.
Yep.
And make stupid comments, but then they make those comments to women who are wholly unprepared to respond in a way that makes any sense socially, and they're like so trigger happy to file a complaint about the smallest of offenses that it blows up into a situation like this where the executives of the company have to respond.
So the main allegation, the one that used to shock you, is the one about the Microsoft Teams comment about the icky stuff. So it says another
the meme about
another allegation mentions a company group chat within Microsoft Teams in which a male staff member justified attraction to a prepubescent game character and shared memes about which Pokemon would be the best to have sex with. One former employee.
Look, obviously a meme. Obviously the dude was joking.
Well, that's the problem.
Obviously, that's
it shows company loyalty.
But you shouldn't. Yeah.
He's like, I wouldn't do that with a PlayStation character.
For real,
nuts?
yeah.
But you shouldn't put that. You probably shouldn't put that in.
Yeah, for sure.
That's his own fault.
Workplace meme group chat. I don't even know if you should have a meme group chat.
Yeah, like me and like the like
At a big corporation.
Like our group chat is perfectly respectful.
Yes, Mary would never take offense to anything me and Dane say up in the studio when we're
Never.
working. Like Mary actually wants to go work for Nintendo now after reading this whole article.
I think it's obviously different when it's a huge corporation, and there are more levels to the hierarchy.
So let's talk about Hannah, who is the person that they talk about in the other article. It says, Nintendo is not only a company that uses contract labor to test games, but it is one of the most profitable. A corporate responsibility report showed that the net sales for its properties from April of 2020 to March of 2021 totaled over $13 billion. Contract workers are an essential part of this company with such enormous profits. Now, Hannah, the character of Hannah, the individual of Hannah, I believe, was a contract worker.
She was with Aerotech, right?
Yes. So it says the problem with was that women were both underrepresented among contractors, but also not often hired into full-time roles. 5 sources who worked at the Nintendo estimated the percentage of women contractors in testing hovered around 10% based on the head counts on their individual teams. Is this just a choice of like women aren't going into video game testing because it's something dudes do?
Dude,
Yeah.
and it's like, how would it help?
Is it literally
You know?
supposed to be like 9,000 guys apply and 1,000 girls apply, and they should hire all 1,000 girls because equality?
Well, yeah, what they want is exactly 50-50.
Like-
Which is untenable and not possible.
Yeah.
So it says in some projects the sources worked on with several dozen team members, women in the team would number in the single digits. Oh my goodness.
Here's something ironic about what they said about women getting overlooked for full-time positions is later on in the article, it recounts a story of a woman who she felt pressured to take a full-time position because she needed the benefits.
Yeah.
But it's like, you're going to either shame the company for overlooking women for the full-time positions, or when they give them women the full-time positions, you'll say that they're doing it for the wrong reasons.
So you can't win ever.
Yeah, you literally can't win.
Just professional complainers.
And I'm confused as to why they started this off with the shock factor of those memes that guy posted.
Yep.
When later on in the article there is actually something credible about a stalker.
Yeah, but that's not
That
nearly
seems
as juicy.
serious. But when you sandwich it in a bunch of other claims of like, this guy made this comment that made me uncomfy,
Yep.
then the stalking just is trivialized
My
and
fifis.
overlooked
My
in the middle of it all.
The response from the HR department was the most telling part of everything.
Which was?
Wasn't it
well,
like,
because
well,
of the
can you
anonymity of the claims, they couldn't do anything about it.
it was basically, well, have you tried not complaining?
Yeah.
So it says Hannah also told Kotaku that she struggled to assert her financial worth while testing Nintendo's games. After working at Nintendo for 9 years, she found out a more junior male contractor in her testing department was making $19 an hour while she was making $16 an hour. This is where the gender wage gap comes from. She didn't get a
Do
raise,
you think
believe
that
it
the male colleague negotiated his way up to 19?
I want to know, like, if he's a junior colleague, but she's been there for 9 years, maybe the dude just checked for a raise every year rather than every 5 years when this girl was apparently doing it, because she's been there for 9 years. Like, that's a long time to be at a company.
We've talked about
that's
this
messed up, though.
in the past, like how women are able to negotiate higher salaries.
She finally does when she actually complains.
But
not complains, but
we
actually
say
brings
it's
it up.
because women are less likely to do that because they're conflict averse and all of these different like
Mary might not put her
psychological, sociological reasons. But like, what's the way that we're going to mitigate that? Because otherwise, stop expecting a different outcome when you're doing the same things over and over.
You can't enter a workforce expecting equality, but then expect for them to also bolster you by doing something you're afraid to do.
What is a way that we would mitigate the fact that women aren't as good at negotiating higher salaries? What would we do?
You don't. You let the
Like-
chips fall where they may.
I see a lot of complaining and not a lot of ideas.
So it says that she asked Arrow. Okay, so basically, she said after she complained, she got a raise up to $18 an hour, right? So we
still
also
$1 less?
That's still $1 less, but we also don't know. Maybe this dude worked more hours. Maybe this dude was just better at his job. We don't know that, and she's not going. Neither side is going to give you an accurate representation of that. You're going to look for something closer to the middle.
That's crazy, though, that they wouldn't, like, even her out. Like, I'm feeling like she must have been, like, you know, a little bit controversial.
There are so many aspects of this that are likely being hidden from the public. Like, I just saw this story, I think from the New York Times, about this black professor who had his house appraised at like 4.5 100,000 or something like that, and then he had a white colleague of his get the house appraised, but they removed indicators of blackness before getting the house appraised again. I have no idea what that means, what the indicators of blackness were. And then it was appraised at like 700,000 around there. Once, and they were saying that's just racial inequality, that's just discrimination, but it's the opinion of two individual experts.
Yeah,
and we aren't told what was changed in between times. It's the same here. Like, there's so much that they're intentionally omitting from public view.
Yeah, I find it super, super, super suspicious that, like, she's like, oh, he got paid 19.
How did she know anyways? Is he just like, I make $19 an hour?
I mean, that's entirely
he
possible.
He just walks around with a t-shirt that says, I make $19 an hour.
No, but like, you know, when confronted with something like that, and she has, I'm guessing her argument is like, I have seniority, I've been here longer. Unless their arguments is like, well, you can only get, this is the max amount of raise that you can get, or something like, we can only give you more, an X amount more.
I also want to point out that they refer to it as an incident when it's not an incident, it's just a pay dispute. So it says Hannah claimed that Aerotech management warned her to be less outspoken after she reported the incident. The incident of me not making exactly, and I harp on this all the time, that women in Hollywood are obsessed with the concept of fairness when it comes to money. They're obsessed with fairness in Hollywood, with the idea that everyone should make the same amount of money. With it, that negates the idea that everyone has different jobs, works at different capacities, et cetera, et cetera.
In Hollywood, it should be the easiest to negotiate fair salaries because you have a team of people who are responsible for the contractual side of things.
Dude, I couldn't believe that Bryce Dallas Howard was like, I can't believe that Chris Pratt makes more money than me.
She was
You're
not.
Literally a nepotism baby.
He's hella more famous than you.
We need
Does
to be
that
fair
mean
to
for
her.
anything?
I don't think that she was complaining. I do think that a lot of that was the press setting her up to sound worse than she actually meant to. She also sings his praises when she talks about how he helped negotiate. He as a man stepped in and was like, I'm going to make sure we all get paid the same. He's like, I like the idea that he puts his like hat from Jurassic Park on to like as he goes in to have the contract dispute. So it says she said that her friends from the work group chat blamed her for reporting the incident, and that the only repercussion the translator faced, they're talking about the meme incident now, was that he was assigned sexual harassment training. So she's like, you should have fired him. Like,
should have fired who?
Just for posting the memes.
The memes, yeah.
Posted them.
So she's like, when somebody complains for something like that, what do they want? They want you fired. They don't want you reprimanded. They want you fired. There's a vendetta there. Was the meme off color and inappropriate? Absolutely. But they don't believe in second chances.
Never.
Yeah, it's just a power trip. It's clearly.
So the translator who made the sexual comments in group chat was a full-time Nintendo employee, and then they get into whether that matters.
They got so far into the weeds about how you got to be friends with the right people to get to be one of the red badges at Nintendo, meaning
you mean like everywhere
employees.
In the world, dude?
Yeah,
like
you have to network to get a better job.
Is it just kind of like they want the world to bend to their whims? Like the world has existed and always exists and works the way it works, and they're like,
certainly
that's not
seems
good,
that way,
and it's just not good enough for them.
It certainly seems that way, and I understand maybe if they're claiming that like women, because likability factor is so much bigger of a deal for women. I think women have to not just know the right people, but step on eggshells to not be on anyone's bad side. But that's not really what they're saying. They're resenting the fact that you have to network and be sociable in general, when really women should have an easier time of that.
There is something to be said that men are rewarded more for being confrontational.
Yeah.
I agree with that aspect 100%.
But that's not even what they're saying because they just want to, spout complaints.
So it says Kotaku spoke to 10 sources for this. I'm literally picturing them find like people who have like I hate Nintendo in their bios. Kotaku spoke to 10 sources for this article who worked at Nintendo at different points of the past decade. They told a story of a corporate culture where sexist behavior was commonplace, where very little action was taken to address it. Most requests anonymity because retaliation could mean a loss of job opportunities. throughout the gaming industry. These employees worked on games and consoles ranging from the early Wii U era to the present Nintendo Switch generation. Aside from the harassment, female contractors also faced issues with trying to advance in the company. I applied for a bunch of other jobs in the industry, and they would ask me why I was looking to leave Nintendo after several years. A lack of advancement opportunities was a huge part of that, a former contractor said. And that's what you should be doing. If you feel that you're worth more, you should absolutely go where you feel that worth is giving you what you're actually going to be deserve to be paid. But most of the time they don't. They want to complain about it and not actually make the change or take the risk.
But like after Gamergate and like all the stories that I personally know of like nepotism and like crazy like hookups in like the gaming industry, I feel like for literally every single other industry, like I would find this like far more palatable and believable than gaming.
So does this all feel like frat boy culture, or does it just feel like an inability for certain people to adapt to work culture?
No, it's entirely possible that there's a frat boy culture. Like honestly, like minor segue time, like when I went to EVO, like the video game, like the fighting game championships of the world, I know like in the fighting game community, there would be a joke that Super Smash Brothers players were like weirdos.
Yeah.
And I was like, I always liked Smash Bros. So I was like, no way, come on. And then I went there and there were literally like waifu pillows, like smelly, like dudes. And then if their employees are anything like those fans, then yeah, it's definitely like toxic work environment.
I don't think the employees are like the fans because
I mean, some of them are. Hopefully.
I don't know. Like, I don't want to paint them with a broad brush.
No, me neither. But I just did.
So Melvin Forrest has been working in the product testing department since the early 90s and eventually became the head of the department. Forrest is credited with working on iconic titles like Mario Kart, Double Dash, Donkey Kong Country, and Metroid Prime. Forrest makes the schedules for Aerotech Associates, that's the subcontractor that hired Hannah and the other employees, and returns after a project ends, so maintaining a good working relationship with him was crucial. This was a problem for female testers who had very uncomfortable experiences with Forrest as a manager. Several sources told Kotaku that Forrest made inappropriate advances towards female testers. Among them was Allison, who worked under Forrest as a data entry assistant. It was pretty common knowledge that he would make comments, hit on people, like to tell associates, "Oh, she's beautiful." She says. Forrest contract tester Chris Alice, who worked at Nintendo from 2014, recalls that Forrest went after all the associate girls and that associates would even warn each other to stay away from his desk. A former tester said that he would comment on female associates' weight and appearance. However, many felt like they had no choice but to stay on good terms with Forrest.
See, that's messed up. And I have heard of guys like that. I think that Valve had an issue with guys like that as well, and that he kept non-stop getting reported, and basically like the girls that were reporting them, like they put them in a room, they were like what do we got to give you for you guys to shut up? And so like when it's like that, like I can't help but like to sympathize with them and hope they get their justice. But it's like
this is going to happen as long as we have mixed gender
Was this
working
the
environments.
same one well, I agree. Was this the same one that they were saying someone verbatim said, if you tell anyone, I'll get you fired?
I think that was the other one.
There's a different situation. I think that's way more clearly serious. And I, again, dislike that they sandwich something as blatantly wrong as that in a bunch of trivial remarks like, "Oh, she's so beautiful."
Yep. Or even the one about like Hannah, which like saying like when it talks about like her being a lesbian.
Oh yeah,
like, it's uncomfortable, and the guy's clearly bad with women. But
she recalled her backup coordinator, a significantly older man who tried to hit on her when she had just started working at the company in 2012. When she revealed her sexuality, he said, "Oh, you're a lesbian. That's kind of sad." It was a poor first impression for Hannah's lengthy career at Nintendo's headquarters, but it wouldn't be the only one. She struggled with her working relationships with male colleagues who would ignore her when she said things like, "I'm a lesbian. I don't like you that way." And they would ask, "Oh, but are you sure? But you're flirting with me. You're just playing hard to get."
Also, I want
This is horrible.
This sounds like clueless dudes.
And I want to talk about the one about like holding hands and like how like they said like one was like she was a
female
girl
couple that were holding hands in their break room or something, and they said that was unfairly their like no touch policy.
No
was unfairly
PDA at work, basically, and that
enforced on
they
them.
didn't enforce it among straight couples. But could that be because they didn't like they were gay? Yes, but could it also be that whoever was doing it was higher up on the food chain?
It's just like, do you really think that your colleagues were like, oh, we don't like them because they're gay? I highly doubt that.
In current year, I don't
highly
buy
doubt
that's happening in a lot of places. So I don't know. It's is it frat boy culture? Yeah, maybe. But I also see this as like there's a certain amount of like struggle that comes with mixed gender working environments that we're still navigating as a society.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can solve that problem
Here's the
entirely.
thing. There's a quote from, I forget which one it was. I think it was an anonymous test worker saying, felt deeply uncomfortable, like a deeply uncomfortable place to be as a woman. I felt like I was treated with a sense of otherness. Then I've had people act in a way that made me uncomfortable, then ask me not to go to HR about it because I'd be misinterpreting, making me feel guilty about my own discomfort. I never felt as included in things or as respected. The thing is, if you're a woman in a majority male environment, then it would make sense that you feel other because you are other.
Yeah.
You're not going to fit in the same way socially as you would in a gender balanced workplace. I don't think that the solution is a quota.
Would uniforms help?
Uniforms.
Like everybody has to wear the same thing?
I don't know. I don't think that I don't think that would help because it would make people feel like they're not supposed to act like professionally in their own right. It's like only in a certain context am I supposed to act professionally towards my coworkers, and then like
I don't understand. So like if it's casual Friday, everyone gets loosey goosey.
I mean, I had uniforms at school, and I know that.
Me too.
I liked the aspect of it that helped kids not like socially ostracize others for not wearing the right thing, but other than that, I don't feel like it.
I'm talking like exclusively with like
that
the sexual stuff.
I don't think that translates socially to adults. I don't think it should be mandatory for adults because you're supposed to be mature enough to behave yourself in a professional setting without forced regulations like that on what you can wear.
I mean, they're sending like which Pokemon would you bang on Slack, so it's like.
Yeah, clearly there's a deep-seated problem.
And that person got in trouble, but not to the
Yeah.
level that she wanted that person to get in trouble for.
Right. Well, I mean, fair.
I think that's just an attempt to like throw her weight around.
Yeah. Yep.
If you want to get someone fired at a moment's notice.
Is this also just something where like if these things bothered a dude, they would just not say anything and they just wouldn't bother them the same way?
What
Can I
would it
say
be,
something?
though?
Like I used to work at I won't say where, definitely won't say where, but like I used to work somewhere where like an older lady would be like, I like your thick legs.
Oh
And
I like
I
your
was-
thick legs too, Dane.
Thanks. And like she would like generally like say that often. I'd be like super creeped out and I wouldn't say anything.
That's what I'm saying. But does do you hold a grudge about that years later? Does that still bother you to this day?
It didn't until she touched me. And then I was
that's
like,
different. Like that's
back
different.
off,
That's
lady.
different,
Yeah, that's creepy.
Yep. All right.
I just think like it needs to be enforced across the board.
But that's hard. Like the problem with all this stuff is everything's on this weird ideological spectrum where every trait you possess is granted different weight. Your race, your gender, your sex.
I'll just say like I don't want to feed into the narrative that this is happening because it's involving like video games and video game culture.
Yep.
That's not why this is happening. This is just like conflicts that would happen in a lot of different workplaces, not just because it's Nintendo.
It's unavoidable. Like people are imperfect, and some people like literally like don't get it.
Yeah.
And like sometimes there's like a Chad Wagon and a Stacy, and they hit it off swimmingly, and then some neckbeard comes in and is like, "Oh, hello, miss," and like obviously he misses. So it's like, you know, it's having self-awareness. It's reading the room. It's like, I mean, preferably.
It's like that meme where the girl swoons over the Chad coworker. But
Yeah,
then,
that's
like,
literally life.
With the other guy, she's like crying on the phone with HR.
It's literally life. Like, just be aware of what you are.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.